Welcome back to the Wild Within podcast. I am outside today. So, again, another risky choice because I've got both dogs out here, goats to my left. My partner could be coming home from work at any time, which would just be wild because the dogs get so excited. But here we are. Sometimes you got to risk it for the biscuit. It is way too nice outside to be inside right now. I wanted to come record a quick episode because today I launched something brand new that has been on my heart for a while. I've been a business owner I've owned the studio for 5 years. I, before that, had a custom art business. Before that, I was a traveling artist and movement facilitator. I would go to pole studios all over the country and spend about a week or so in their programs and do residencies. So I have always been entrepreneurial. In fact, when I lived in New York City, circa maybe 2013 to 2015 ish, I worked at a restaurant. And that's a story for another day too. I worked at a very fancy restaurant on 28th and Park, and it was at the bottom of this try again. It was at the bottom of the Gansevoort Hotel. So it was a very interesting place to work. Lots of different walks of life. But anyway, I would keep coming back and forth to that job. I would do residencies and travel and come back and pick up a shift. And I think I mentioned this in the last episode. If you've ever been in the restaurant world or the bartending world or the service industry or even in the beauty industry, like, you can always pick up another shift and grab another client or work a little extra, or, that kind of scrappy mentality. So when I made the decision to leave New York City and travel full time to teach, I remember ritualistically burning my ugly, checkered, button that shit up to your neck, collared, itchy uniform shirt that I used to wear every shift. In fact, I remember being so fucking broke when I lived in the city. They gave you one shirt, you had to buy the other ones. How about that shit? So they gave you one shirt, you had to buy the other ones. I couldn't afford it. It was like a fucking J. Crew or like Ralph Lauren shirt. It was ugly as hell. And so I would just I would wear the same one. Sometimes I would work like 5 shifts in a row. And if you've ever been in the restaurant world working like doubles and shit, it gets so gross. So I would wash my shirt in the sink and hang it in me and my friend's apartment and hope that it would dry by the next shift. Sometimes I wouldn't even do that. I would blow dry it to I would literally blow dry it to hope that it would be dry enough. I remember going to work with the pit still being kind of wet. But anyway, when I left the city, I ritualistically burned this item because I knew that if I still had it in my possession, it would tell me that I could go back to this thing that was sort of working or would save my ass a little bit, but truly was not what I wanted to do. Like, not even close. Me and my partner talk about it all the time, of all the many businesses we've dreamed about owning and flipping houses and entrepreneurial journeys. Him and I both actually agree that owning a restaurant is something that we'd want to do like last. So power to people who are in the restaurant world from like a loving, holistic place, because where I worked was not that. But anyway, long story short, I burned it because I was fucking done with that shit. And if I had kept it, if it was subconsciously in the back of my mind, like, oh, you can come back to this, I probably never would have fully dove in, 10 toes like a crazy person into all of these entrepreneurial spaces that I have found myself in. And I'm sharing this with you because today, in our opening circle of the first ever business coven, I just am so excited for the people who have found themselves in this space, because the gauge, the range of entrepreneurship was so vast, from people who have left 20 and 30-year corporate positions to actually ask themselves what it is they want to do and be in their life, to people who have owned businesses, and there was a studio owner like me who've been in the game for like 13 plus years, and people who have there's a woman who was in the veterinary medicine field for the last, I think she said 30 years, and also just made a hard pivot of something not maybe heart led yet, but wanted to see what it was like to be out on her own and just see if she had what it took to, not be in a space of being under someone. Being, when you're an entrepreneur, it's you, man. Like you're the one that has to show up and cut the checks and be honest with yourself. So um, this woman went from the veterinary space, to notary as kind of a beta test to see how it felt for her. And now she's living into that heart space. She's leaning into that heart space of service and providing care for people in the way that lit her up when she was in the veterinary world. So this culmination of 12 women and human beings leaning into their magic and their gifting. Again, we've got the owner of the womb spa, Debbie, my girl, who is just blasting open what cyclical leadership can look like for us as cyclical beings and women, to a holistic, like heart, so much heart. This woman has so much heart-centered chef, pairing nature and food, and or honestly not pairing, like helping us remember that nature and food are one, to someone advocating the mind-body connection in the sober space, to complete shift of values in the beauty industry. Like, I am talking incredible fucking people that have opened up this business Coven portal. And it's like maiden voyage. And something that I put them through today was a somatic exercise on some potential pain points that we logically have told ourselves stories about. But then when we put the somatic and the movement component to it, actually different stories were revealed. Some more honest and more painful, and some less like stress inducing and more celebratory. And like I said, and like I always say, is that it's all information for us at any given point, if we so choose to listen to it in that way. So I wanted to kind of go through this gentle overview of what the business Coven was today, because yes, we are in the entrepreneurial space. And as someone who has figured out the art of finances, the art of making money, financial flow, and as someone who right now currently is actually in a full recalibration of her business, like I am looking deep into the threads of Thrive, because I know we have a big growth season coming up, and that shit takes, like, you need one of those the jeweler eyes, a loop. You need a loop. If you're a business owner and you're going through a growth stage, you got to take out that loop, girl. Look into the creases and crevices. But not only am I interested in helping people, heart-led spiritual soulpreneurs, lead with their full bodies and figure out how to make money in a way that's resourced and sustainable and joy inducing, I also want to make sure that we as women are resourced first. Always. Because that shit carries into our businesses, it carries into our families, it carries into us. And we are the backbone of society. I'm sorry, not sorry. We just are. We have massive capacities, which I think is why it's so easy for us to wear multiple hats. But have you guys ever seen the movie Focus with Will Smith and Margot Robbie? Is it Margot Robbie? Anyway, you know, that hot chick from Wolf of Wall Street and Barbie. I love her. I think she's beautiful. But anyway, the movie Focus, I was watching yesterday or maybe last night, and he said something that kind of stopped me in my tracks. Now I know it's a movie, so give or take, but he said the brain cannot multitask. He's teaching her how to pickpocket people in such an artistic form that there's just no detection that it's happening. And so he's showing with her, like, you touch here and you take here, you touch here and you take here, you bring someone's attention over here and you actually are doing something over here. And he said the brain cannot multitask. And I just stopped and thought, well, what the fuck have I been doing? And then I also stopped and thought, like, man, how many of us pride ourselves on being able to do that and wear so many hats. But if it's true that that's not possible, then what we're doing is just overriding our nervous system and maxing out our capacity in a way that's actually quite harmful for us. So how do we get shit done? How do we make money? How do we live full lives? How do we show up fully in our families and around dinner tables and in the boardroom? Resourced, regulated, and ready. Resourced, regulated, and ready, and even doubling down on the readiness, ready to receive. Receiving has a direct relationship with nervous system and nervous system regulation. You can only make as much money as you are willing to receive. And in that receiving, the receiving comes from the unclench of the nervous system. Yeah. And you know me, my favorite way to unclench, not only just through breath, but to also move that body. Get in those hips, get in that spine, get in that chest. I'm wiggling as I'm doing it. We got to get in. We are obsessed with the feminine rising. But what if she has to go down and in? What if the actual evolution, the alchemy, the expansion is from the depths, from within? And what if you can only grow as tall and as wide as you're willing to go down and deep? Right? I made a reference to a plant on the last episode. It's kind of like that too. The tallest trees have the deepest roots. The tallest trees have the deepest roots. So anyway, the business Coven is unlike anything else that's out there for entrepreneurs. Yes, we are talking launching and visibility and content and things like that, but we are also talking nervous system, sensuality, showing up fully, taking a fucking break, not being a cog in the wheel, even though we decided to not be a cog in the wheel. We have fabricated ourselves to just show up in that way. So shifting the paradigms, not being tiny men in blazers, not being tiny men. We're changing the way that women do business, that women do living, that women do life and pleasure and sensuality. That's what we do here at the Wild Within Academy. That's what we do on this podcast. That's what we do at Thrive Embodied Arts in Newton, New Jersey. And that is what I am bringing to the business Coven. And I fucking love group work. I was talking with someone recently who she was like, I do not like group work. I do not like cohorts, like from a leading perspective. I fucking love that shit. Being together is one of the most ancient things we know how to do as women. And I have to say, this is why I love pole studios too, and why I'll eventually do an episode on pole sharing or just the power of witnessing. There's this weird thing that happens in pole studios. And if you guys don't know me well, I own a pole studio. Thrive Embodied Arts is a pole dance studio too. There's this weird thing that happens in pole studios where students get pissed off if they have to share poles. But let me tell you something. First of all, witnessing and being witnessed is a massive learning canvas for us as adults, especially adult women. Adults and women in particular learn through resonance. Resonance is the feeling that we bounce back and forth on and off each other. It's a vibration, it's a feeling and sensation. And women learn the best through this quality, through resonance. Watching, witnessing, and being witnessed is such a beautiful way to learn. And if you're not learning in that way, I would beg to ask you why, or what shows up when you are in a place where you can witness or be witnessed. I can tell you what happens in the pole world, or people who are curious about the studio, is that cringe energy that we get when we see someone being loud or expressive or sexual or making a shitload of money. Whatever that part of you is that fucking cringes, that is the place that needs love. So I'm saying this because in this group working container, this business coven, where entrepreneurs are coming together to marry wisdom and wealth, to bridge profit and pleasure. This shit is going to be so good. Now we're closed for the fall. Business Coven is in its little beta group for the fall, an amazing group of 12. But I can tell you already, I know this shit is coming back next year with so much juice because I am lit up about it. I am very excited about people living and leading from their full bodies. And I get really excited about artists and creatives and visionaries figuring out the art of making money in a way that feels good and sustainable and helpful and serves people as well. So, quick overview of what we did today, in case you're curious, in case you've listened this far and you're like, fuck yeah, I need in on that. Here we go. Our focus today was embodied practices, somatic work, and nervous system attunement to support growth. I gave homework that had to do with cleansing, inviting in, and protection. In our secret folder that I've shared with everyone, there are also components of homework like this. Also, if in college I got homework like this, I would have done it a lot more. But somatic sequences, a ritual, shadow work prompts, and then practical business homework. Let's see what else I want to share with you from this. I showed them an 8-minute grounding ritual that can be done literally anywhere. We went through a somatic exercise dealing with the wheel of life. And then we shared in collaboration as well, because partnership and pair shares are one of my favorite things to do. So I'm not going to tell you two more because I don't want to give it away. But I do want to say that if you're someone who is finding themselves in a transition, or you have always been called to leadership, you were the captain of your sports teams, you were the point lead on the yearbook committee, you just always kind of found yourself in a place where people were looking to you or gravitated towards you in a way, in a sense of endearment or curiosity, or maybe that wasn't you. And maybe you have decided, fuck this corporate career, I want to do shit my way. Or maybe you're done with the service industry and you're ready to be your own boss. The Business Coven is going to be a awesome place for those who are ready to do the work. They want to see results inner and outer, not only profit, but pleasure, like I had mentioned before. And I just get so excited to help shift the logic and the sensation that we have been fed to believe and to follow as women, because we make the rules, or at least that's what's coming up next for us. We make the rules, and our realities around us are completely dictated by us. And what's amazing about being a woman is you get to take people with you. There is something magnetic innately about us. If we want change, we have to be it. I know it's been an exhausting game, but damn, it's a good one too. And I don't know if you're like me, but eclipse season just tried to fucking kill me.